The sun rises over a damp, shivering plain. You're lying on your back, stiff from sleeping on rocks that were definitely not advertised as memory foam. Your animal skin blanket smells like wet dog and disappointment. Your stomach's growling. Your face is crusted in something you hope is just mud. Welcome to the morning routine of a Paleolithic human. Congratulations, you're a caveman now, and it sucks. Forget everything romantic you've heard about this era. Noble hunter-gatherers, bold mammoth chasers, brave souls painting majestic murals in caves. The truth? You're cold, hungry, sore, and your left foot is covered in what might be mammoth dung. You don't remember stepping in it, but that's half the terror of living in the Stone Age. Most of your injuries, stains, and smells come from sources you'll never identify. You sit up. You wince. Your muscles ache from sprinting away from danger yesterday. Was it a bear? A giant snake? Your cousin again? Hard to say. Everything here wants to kill you, including the weather. You stretch your legs and start walking toward the river. It's 5 miles away, uphill, and across a patch of land humorously known as Sabertooth Alley. No one's laughing, of course, not since Krug went for a drink and came back as a cautionary tale. The trek is exhausting. Your knees pop with every step, your feet are already bleeding in your left sandal. Made from questionable hide and even more questionable knots, has started talking to you in a tone that sounds suspiciously judgmental. But it's either this or die of dehydration, and let's be honest, you're probably going to do that eventually anyway. The only real question is whether you'll do it with dignity, or while face down in a puddle that smells like fermented mammoth pee. You haven't eaten in 2 days. Your last meal was a handful of charred roots and something you thought was a mushroom. Spoiler, it was not. You hallucinated a saber-toothed tiger wearing a sun hat and talking about tax reform for 3 hours. He made some decent points, to be fair. That's the closest thing to entertainment you've had all week, if you think about hunting. You pick up a rock. It's not even a sharp rock. It's smooth, round, and vaguely warm from the sun. Useless, you sigh. Then you hurl it at a squirrel that's been taunting you from a nearby tree. You miss by a mile. The squirrel doesn't even flinch. It stares at you with pity, then resumes chewing on something that looks suspiciously like the last piece of your dignity. Toilets? Never heard of her? Your stomach gurgles ominously, loudly. It's the kind of sound that makes nearby birds take off, and one guy in the distance mutter, "Uh-oh." You know what's coming. You know it like you know rain means wet socks and raw squirrel means regret. You shuffle behind a bush, if you can call it that. It's more like a patch of twigs with trust issues. One eye open, knees bent, you hover in prehistoric squat position, praying there's not a snake beneath the leaves, a thorn right where it shouldn't be, or a fellow tribesman also playing bathroom roulette on the other side of the shrub. Awkward. It's vulnerable. It's humbling in the worst possible way. And wiping? Buddy, the best you've got is a scratchy fern and a prayer that it isn't secretly poisonous. You remember what happened to Og last week. Poor guy's still walking funny. The wind shifts, the leaves rustle. Somewhere in the distance, a wolf howls. It might be a warning. It might just be laughing at you. Either way, you're done. You clench everything you've got, abandon the questionable foliage, and speed waddle back to camp with the panicked gait of a person who knows exactly how vulnerable a bare bottom really is. You don't talk about what just happened. You just sit by the fire, very still, and hope no one can smell your shame. Home sweet hut. Camp is a circle of rocks, sticks, and regret. Your shelter collapsed last night during a windstorm. You rebuilt it using mud, bones, and pure spite. It leans slightly to the left and groans ominously in the breeze, like it too has given up. Honestly, it's a miracle it's still standing. You're not entirely convinced it wants to be. Inside, nothing. No fire, no warmth, no blanket that isn't half-eaten by moths or rodents. The floor is just dirt. Cold, uneven, judgmental dirt. You curl up under a mammoth hutch you definitely stole from someone else's pile and try not to think about how many fleas now call it home. You itch, preemptively. You scratch in defeat. Rain starts leaking through the roof. Of course it does. One drop hits your forehead. Another lands in your ear. You consider moving, but instead just sigh and let it happen. This is your life now. Your hut creaks again. You whisper to it, "Please don't fall." like that's gonna help. It answers with a drip to the face. Everyone smells like despair. Your tribe is gathered around the main fire. They're huddled together, stinking of old meat and unwashed dreams. The air is thick with smoke, sweat, and something that might be fermented mammoth. It's not comforting, it's just warm and gross. Hygiene isn't a thing here. No soap, no dental floss, no deodorant, just you and 25 other people trying not to die, and failing to smell good in the process. The wind shifts and someone's armpit hits you like a club. You gag silently and pretend it was from the smoke. It wasn't. You scratch your scalp, a louse falls out. You flick it into the fire, it sizzles, you don't even blink. Someone sneezes directly into the communal stew, no one says anything, it's just accepted, you still plan on eating it, everyone does. That's the level you're at. Social status in your tribe is based on hunting success and body odor severity. The best hunters reek the most. They wear it like a badge of honor. Right now, you're at the bottom of both. You didn't catch anything this week except a fungal rash and possibly someone else's fleas. You shift away slightly, but there's no real escape. You're pressed between a man who hasn't bathed since the last glacier and a woman whose breath could stun a mammoth. You try to breathe through your mouth, but even that tastes like disappointment. This is community. This is survival. This is what despair smells like. Love in the time of lice. Someone smiles at you across the fire. You think it's a flirtation, but it could also be indigestion. It's hard to tell when everyone looks equally malnourished and emotionally unavailable. They offer you half a roasted squirrel, charred, slightly undercooked, definitely missing a leg. You take it. You nod. This might be your soulmate. Romance here is primal and practical. No flowers, no poems, just food offerings and grunts. If someone shares their slightly less burnt rodent with you, that's affection. If they don't immediately push you out of the communal shelter, that's love. The modern equivalent of a love letter is a semi-cooked marmot and not having visible boils. Hygiene is negotiable. Emotional vulnerability is expressed through prolonged eye contact and the occasional shared lice-picking session. Later, while lounging awkwardly on a pile of mammoth fur and existential dread, you learn they're your cousin. Not first cousin, but cousin enough. Classic. You take a bite of the squirrel anyway. Love is complicated. Survival even more so. Everything is trying to murder you. After lunch, squirrel and sadness, you head out with the hunters. Your stomach's still growling, but it's hard to tell if it's hunger or dread. You're armed with a sharpened stick and sheer optimism. It's not enough. It never is. You spot a bison in the distance. Massive, snorting, angry at the world for reasons you deeply understand. It locks eyes with you. You lock eyes with it. There is a moment of mutual confusion, followed by immediate and unequal violence. It snorts, it charges, and you realize, far, far too late, that this was a terrible idea. You squeak loudly, then dive behind a boulder with all the grace of a collapsing elk. Your stick snaps in two like it was waiting for an excuse to abandon you. The bison thunders past, deeply offended that you even tried. You're pretty sure it rolled its eyes. You limp back to camp with a bruised ego, a grass stain on your butt, and what may be the faint beginnings of tetanus. The hunters don't even ask what happened. They just look at you, then look away, like they don't want your bad luck to rub off. That night, you tell the story around the fire. You embellish it, of course. You say you stared death in the face and snarled. You say the stick broke because you hit the bison so hard. You say the grass stain is blood. It is not. Everyone laughs, hard. Someone nearly chokes on a beetle. A kid mimics your dive into the dirt. Someone else carves a stick figure version of the event on the cave wall. You're pretty sure they made your head extra large to emphasize how dumb you looked. There's even a little broken stick next to you, labeled, "Weapon?" Congratulations, you are now immortalized in cave graffiti as the tribe's favorite punchline. Your legacy? A heroic tale of failure, told nightly over half-burnt roots. And honestly, you'll take it. And then there's the weather. As night falls, so does the temperature. You're wrapped in a squirrel pelt and a dream. Neither is insulating. Both are questionable life choices. The wind howls like a banshee that's just stubbed its toe. It slips through every gap in your so-called shelter and settles directly into your bones. Your teeth chatter so loudly it attracts a curious owl, which stares at you for several long, judgmental seconds before flying off. Even the wildlife thinks you're pathetic. Your fire dies halfway through the night like it gave up on your chances and decided not to waste the wood. You try to rekindle it with 2 sad rocks and the last of your patience. You strike, and strike, and strike. Nothing, just sparks and shame. You whisper threats to the wood, you blow on it, you beg. The fire does not care. It has moved on. Eventually you curl into a ball and pretend you're warm. You hume to yourself for morale. It sounds like crying. It might be crying. Spoiler, you're not warm. Your squirrel pelt slips off your shoulder, you don't even bother fixing it. At this point, hypothermia feels like a welcome distraction. This is weather in the Paleolithic. Brutal, unforgiving, and deeply personal. You close your eyes and try to sleep. The wind laughs in your face. Death is always trending. Your buddy Grack cut his foot last week. Just a little slice on a rock, nothing major. He laughed about it at first, said it made him look tough. Now it's green, puffy, smells like something died inside the foot. Which, to be fair, might be accurate. He stopped talking. He just stares at the fire, breathing shallow and slow. The shaman gave him some moss, a weird root, and a chant that sounded suspiciously like humming while panicking. You both know what's coming. He dies quietly while everyone else gnaws on a half-cooked rat. One guy asks if anyone else wants the crispy part. No one looks up. No one says anything. Just a few solemn grunts and the universal tribal signal for whelp. A kid pokes Grack with a stick. Nothing. Confirmed. You sit beside him for a moment, not out of ceremony. His spear is leaning against the log. It's a good one. Straight, sharp, not even splintered. You gently pull it toward you while someone starts rearranging the firewood. The body's going to be part of the fuel soon. Then you take his spear, you nod once. Life goes on, horribly, but on. Drama, dirt, and dubious dental work. There's a fight today over who gets the last clean drinking gourd. Clean is generous, it smells like fermented frog. But that doesn't stop 2 grown adults from trying to rip each other's hair out over it. Someone ends up with a rock to the head. It's not serious, probably. Bleeding is normal here. You try to break it up, but your only weapon is a firm voice and a stick that's mostly decorative. Honestly, it's more of a vibe than a threat. No one listens. The gourd rolls into a fire pit and cracks. Everyone loses. Later, in an unrelated act of horror, the shaman tries to extract someone's tooth with a rock wedge and some healing chanting that sounds suspiciously like whimpering. The screams echo into the forest. A bird takes flight. A bear hears. It doesn't attack, but it does poke its head out of the trees, look mildly annoyed, and go back to whatever bears do when they're judging humans from a distance. One. Hope, somehow, and yet, somehow, you survive. You wake up the next morning and watch the sun rise over the hills. The air smells faintly of smoke and wet fur. Your bones ache. Your clothes are still damp. Your mouth tastes like regret. But someone tosses you a roasted lizard tail and you smile. A kid draws a mammoth on the cave wall, and you help add the eyes. You laugh at a joke someone grunts out, even though it mostly involves miming a goat falling over. There's music. Someone banging on hollow bones. There's dancing. There's warmth. And for a fleeting moment, it doesn't suck. Not because anything got easier, but because you're not doing it alone. Legacy. Thousands of years from now, people will sit in climate-controlled rooms and complain about slow Wi-Fi. They'll put on shoes without thinking. They'll brush their teeth with minty gel and complain that it's not spearmint. And they'll forget that their entire existence was made possible by people like you. You, who endured frostbite and saber-tooths, heartbreak and food poisoning, lice and loneliness. You, who carved out laughter in the muck, who found art in ashes, who found love in the middle of lice-infested disaster. You weren't comfortable, but you were human. And being human, that never really changes. So yes, being a caveman sucked. But you made it suck together. And that's kind of beautiful.